Welcome to letteringworld.com. Hi, I'm Kevin Horvath. With the popularity of creating your own decorative envelopes, I wanted to put together a video showing you how to create your own envelope designs in a variety of styles. And especially now during the pandemic, these are a great way to send a special handmade design to someone to show how much you love and care about them. A handwritten message and a hand-drawn design has so much more emotion and feeling than an email or typed message. So let's get started. Here's a sample of some of the envelopes I have designed to help you get started, and hopefully you can begin to do your own variations of these techniques. I'll briefly take you through each design and show you how it was done. Before we get started, here's a list of supplies you will need. You can get all these at Michael's. Black ink, a quill or fountain pen, a kneaded eraser, a mechanical pencil, a Pigma Micron Black 05 pen, pastel color markers, a Uniball Signa white pigment pen, a silver opaque marker, color pencils, rubber stamps and pads, a ruler, and Scotch tape. After doing some small rough sketches, I sketched out this design wanting to do different color boxes for the person's name. I used a ruler to lightly mark the guidelines for my type and design elements. I then used a kneaded eraser to lightly erase the pencil line work so it's more subtle to be able to color over it. With a Pigma 05 pen, I went over my pencil sketch to create part of the final lettering. I then used color pencils to start adding my color design elements. I then began to fill in my squares in color pencil, coloring around the letters. I erased any pencil lines that were still showing. I then began to add weight to the mono weight version of the person's name, similar to a quill pen, so every downstroke had weight added. And here's the final version of this color boxes design. With these designs, you can keep your line work very precise, or you can do a looser and more playful style like this one. I did this design with rubber stamps. I had a variety of fish and sea creatures, and I used two different color stamp pads, and used a strip of paper to use as a blockout area over the address. I started out sketching the address in pencil, so I knew how much space it would take up. Notice I used a ruler to mark my guidelines for the lettering and border. Next, I put the tan paper strip over the type area to block out the area. Then I taped the strip from the back side of the strip. I then began to stamp some designs in one color. Then I chose some different stamps and used another color to fill the page, trying to overlap some of the stamps over the blockout strip. Next, I took off the tan strip of paper to reveal the pencil sketch of the address. I then drew a double wave line border with a green and blue marker to create a bordered edge. Next, I began to draw out the address in black ink. For this version, I used a flexible nib fountain pen so I could draw script lettering with thicks and thins. I drew the names in script lettering and the address in all caps Roman lettering. And here's the final version of the sea life design. Stamps are a lot of fun to work with and can add a really different dimension to your work. On this design, I wanted to use a white pigment pen on darker stock. After some research on poppy flowers, I sketched out the name and address and the flowers on red stock. You can see the beginning white stroke on the M with the Uniball white pen. I wrote out the name and address in the white pen, being careful not to smear it while the ink is wet. Next, I added a border around the lettering and began to draw an outlined version of the poppies. When the design was complete and dry, I used a kneaded eraser to lightly erase the pencil line work. Don't erase too hard or some of the ink can come off. If that happens, you can carefully go over the drawing. And here's the final version of this poppy design. Another thing to try is doing a design on medium tone background and use a white and black pen to create your design. On this design, I wanted to create vines of leaves that surrounded the address. So I drew a vine that came down from the top left and went down across the bottom. After doing some viney leaf research, I then decided to add holly leaves to fill it out. Then I took a kneaded eraser and lightly erased the design so color can be added without show-through. I then began to draw in the lettering with a Pigma black pen. Initially a mono weight version, then I later added weight on the name. I also began to draw the ivy with fine colored markers. When the design was done, I erased any noticeable lines and filled in any light areas with markers or black ink. And here is the final holly leaf design. On this design, I wanted to incorporate a banner into the artwork, along with lettering on an arc. So here's my design I sketched out in pencil. So first I used a silver opaque marker to draw the banner, then drew the black lettering over the top. Then I began to add weight to the mono weight script, adding weight to the downstrokes. And here is the finished banner design. I added an extra box shape around the design to contain it and erased any pencil lines left showing. On this design, I wanted to create a playful decorative border around the lettering. I used a ruler to draw out the guidelines and sketched out my design. On the name, I was planning on doing a double-stroke font so I can fill it in with color. So I began to pen it out with a black Pigma pen and make the name double-stroked. Once the drawing was done, I used a kneaded eraser to erase any pencil lines showing. With a green color pencil, I began to fill in the lettering and alternatively fill in the border design. And here's the final leaf border design. I added white dots with a uniball white pen for decorative accents. On this design, I wanted to use lines as a subject matter and fit the lettering inside of it. I sketched in my design and drew my guidelines. I used a light orange marker to draw the lines. I planned on creating a built-up script for the name and a mono-weight lettering version for the address. So I drew the lettering with a Pigma black pen and began to add weight to the name. Then I used a kneaded eraser to erase any pencil lines left. And here is the final version of this line design ep. On this design, I wanted to create a large piece of lettering and tuck the address around it. So I sketched in my design and drew my guidelines. Then with a silver opaque marker, I penned out the last name. After the ink was dry, I erased any pencil line that were showing. I then added weight to the downstrokes. I drew the address with a blue pen and added silver lines on either side of the name to help emphasize it. So here's the final design on this final ep. Thanks for watching.